My name is Lin Xiaowei. My name sounds quite delicious, but in fact, I can't even touch the word taste. When others mention me, they always feel angry and say that I am a waste of firewood and can burn water even when cooking vegetables. That's right, it's not an excuse, it's a real thing. When I was a kid, I was cooking snacks on the street to help my dad work. I could boil a piece of white water and smoke, which made the guests around me think we were burning something evil. Since then, my dad never let me touch the knives again, saying that I was born to be a knives. Our family opened a snack on this old street, called Lin Xiaowei. The name was chosen by my father. He said that he hoped that I could inherit his handicraft and make this little slap flourish. Unfortunately, my dad's handcraft is just like that, and he can hardly fill his stomach. Even the uncle who sells stinky tofu at the end of the street is better than ours. My dad always said that if we do this, we don't want to be rich and expensive, we just want to make people eat a lot of hot food and feel the taste of home. But what about me? Don't talk about the taste of home. What I cook can make people wonder about their life after eating it. This old street is the oldest part of the city. The alleys are so narrow that it cannot be worn even with 3 wheels. The 2 sides are next to each other, and they are sold, including fried fruits, spicy sautés, grilled skewers, and the air is full of smoke and shouts. Our family is in the most inconspicuous corner, with tables and chairs all coming. How many times we wipe the oily tabletop is still the same virtue. Every morning at 5 o'clock, my dad started to work and prepare the ingredients for the day. As for me, I was responsible for washing vegetables, wiping the table, and occasionally helping to collect bowls. Don't look at me not doing much, but my dad still thinks that my hands are slow and said I know I'm stupid all day long. Actually, I wasn't meant to be stupid, I was just a little unwilling to give up. Looking at the newly opened restaurant opposite the street, it was decorated like a palace, and there was a luxury car parked at the door. All the people in and out were dressed in bright clothes. I felt that I was not from the same world as them. They eat a meal and they make us busy for a month. And I can't even make like a meal, so how can I be qualified to go to that place? Not to mention that there are those top-level chefs in this city. They heard that the dishes they cook can make people cry after eating, which is nothing like an artist. The annual Taste Bud Throne competition is even more like Oscar in the chef industry. Those who can stand on that stage are all like gods. And I can't even practice the most basic knife skills well, so what can I compare with others? But, seriously, I don't have any dreams at all. I also want to prove that I am not a waste, and I also want my dad to straighten my waist and say to people, my son is promising. But in fact, my simplest egg stir-fry can be fried into a pile of black charcoal. Whatever dreams sound like a joke. It was an ordinary Friday, and the business of the squad was as bad as ever. By noon, there were no one sitting and eating. My dad squatted beside the slumber and smoked, his face darkened like the clouds in the sky. I know he is worried. Recently, the rent has increased again, and the business of Juicy is getting worse and worse. The several next door have already closed. I sat down, brushing my phone with my head down, and I got a piece of news about the Top of Taste Buds competition, saying that this year's competition registration has begun. The champion can get millions of bonuses and can also work directly in top restaurants. When I looked at the news, my heart felt as if I was being swept by something. It was sour and a little bit sour. Dad, why don't I go to a famous test too? I tried to open my mouth, and the sound was as small as a mosquito. My dad looked up at me, holding a smoke in his mouth, and said unhappily, "You? Go to register? Don't be fooled. Your handicrafts and the wild cats on the street don't eat what you cook. Do you want to compete with those big kids? Save it, it's better to wash those dishes than anything else." I curled my lips, and although I was dissatisfied, I didn't say anything anymore. To be honest, my dad said it was right. I guess I couldn't even pass the first game after going there. I was purely going to give people a joke. But I just don't want to give up. Why can someone else stand on that stage? I can only live on this broken man. Just as I was washing dishes with my head down, a noise suddenly came from the entrance of the alley. I looked up and saw several men in suits walking towards us. The golden-eyed lens on the head was full of arrogant faces, and he pointed at the surroundings and said something. Looking at their battle, it seems like they are here to collect protection fees, but no one dares to come here on this street for a long time. What are these people doing? When they walked up to our skull, the man with glass stopped, looked down at our table, then pointed his eyebrows and said, "This place is too broken, there is not even a skull like it. How can it still be opened?" My dad stood up and smiled and bowed. "Sir, what's wrong with you? Our small business is actually not very good or bad." The man slammed my father and slammed his father. "I'm not looking for trouble. My name is Xiao Tianhua, and I'm the chief chef of the Tianxiang Guard in the city. Today I passed this street and heard that there were many old-fashioned makers here, and I came to see if there were anything that could attract attention. However, it seemed like there was nothing worth my waste of time." Xiao Tianhua? I've heard this name. He is a rising star in the chef industry these years. He said that he has won several big prizes at the age of light. The dishes he cooks can make people unable to forget them after taking a bite. He is just a genius among geniuses. He also has a big backer behind him, and he heard that he was a big boss in the city, with a very strong background. How could such a character come to such a broken place? My dad hurriedly smiled and said, "Bao de ku, you can come to our small place, it's really a puff. Or, how can you make our signature fried rice? Although it's not as good as your big handwritten pen, it's also made with care." Xiao Tianhua sneered and said, "No, I don't want to waste my appetite. What kind of thing can be made in this place?" But he suddenly turned to look at me, with a little fun in his eyes. "I heard that there's a waste of firewood on this street, and even water can burn it. Is it you?" My heart skipped a beat and my face turned red in an instant. This name has long been spread throughout the streets, and even people outside know about it. But when I said this, I still felt that I had a special face. I lowered my head and held the dishcloth tightly, but I didn't dare to look up at him. "Ha, it's you." Xiao Tianhua smiled even more violently. "I thought it was just a rumor, but I didn't expect there was such a person. Okay, there's nothing good to look at, let's go." After saying that, he turned around with a few people, leaving behind a group of spectacular private words, and my dad's blue face. I gritted my teeth, and my heart seemed to be blocked by something, and I couldn't tell the difficulty. I have heard the word Huang Chai countless times, but this time it is particularly harsh. Don't pay attention to them. This kind of person is here to find Lizzie. My dad patted my shoulder with a low voice, "Just do our own thing well, don't think too much." I clicked the head, but I still couldn't get over that hurdle. When I was packing at night, I sat alone at the entrance of the alley, staring at the faint light in the sky. At this moment, a strange sound suddenly came from the depths of the alley, as if something was hitting the ground lightly. I was stunned for a moment, thinking that in the middle of the night, who was still wandering around in this broken place? Curiosity was expelled, and I stood up and touched it in the sound. The alley was pitch black, only a few old road lights were barely lit, and the air was filled with a damp musty smell. I walked a few steps, and the sound became clearer and clearer, as if someone was using something to hit the stone. When I turned around, I finally saw the source of the sound, an old man in a ragged robe, squatting in the corner of the alley, holding a small stone in his hand, banging something. I walked closer and saw a bunch of messy things in front of the old man, including bracelets, and a few gadgets that looked like antiques. He saw me walking over, raised his head and looked at me. His eyes were sluggish, his face was covered with patterns, as if he could come out of water. "Boy, I don't sleep in the middle of the night, why are you doing here?" The old man sounded a little impatient when he heard it. Just listen to the sound, come and take a look." I was squeezing my head, a little awkward. What are you doing?" The old man hummed and did not answer directly, but picked up a small box from the thing on the ground and came to me. "Do you want to look at this?" I looked down and saw that the box was quite old, and the surface of the wooden head was almost bleak. There was a green jade pendant lying inside, which was carved very exquisitely, like some ancient pattern. Although I don't understand antiques, I think this thing is not simple. But I can't even pay 10 pieces of money in my pocket, so how can I buy such a thing? I can't afford this thing, I said honestly. The old man grinned and showed his yellow teeth. Who said he was going to sell you? Only those who are ill of me can take this. Do you think there is anything special when you look at it? I was stunned for a moment, staring at the jade pendant carefully, and it was strange. When I was staring at it, I suddenly felt a faint fragrance in my nose, like a certain kind of food I ate when I was a child, but I couldn't say what it was. The feeling was particularly strange, as if it had aroused some memory, but I couldn't catch it. It's a little scent. I tried to speak. The old man's eyes lit up and he pointed. No, you can hear the smell, and it means you have something to do with it. Okay, I'll give this to you, take it away. When I heard this, my brain was a little confused. Send it to me? Is there any problem with this old man? What seems to be worth the money, just give it. But before I could refuse, he stuffed the box into my hand, then packed up the things on the ground, and left without looking back. Hey, wait. I shouted a few times, but the old man walked quickly and disappeared in the blink of an eye. I looked down at the box in my hand, my heart was up and down. What exactly is this jade pendant? Why do you say I have something to do with it? Could it be that this is the first step to the protagonist, the light ring, and the waste firewood reverse? That night, I went home with my jade pendant and turned around and couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, I suddenly heard a rich fragrance, which spread from the jade pendant, like the smell of some kind of food, but I have never heard of such a pure fragrance. I was shocked in my heart, and sat up and looked at the jade pendant carefully, and found that it was actually shining with light on the surface, as if something was flowing inside. At this moment, a bunch of chaotic screens suddenly flashed through my brain, including knife skills, heat, texture combinations, and some weird dishes I have never seen before, as if they were directly stuffed into my brain. I shook my hand and almost fell to the ground. But when I came back to my senses, the pictures disappeared again, leaving only an inexplicable feeling. I seemed to suddenly understand the way to cook. The next morning, I got up early and ran to Juicy to help. My dad was so excited that he thought I had taken wrong medicine and couldn't help but talk. Yeah, did the sun come out from the west today? Why don't you get into bed? I ignored him and silently picked up the kitchen knife and prepared to cut some elixirs to try. It's strange to say that the pictures that flashed in my brain last night seemed to be engraved in my memory. When the knife in my hand moved, the movements were actually quite stylish, and the elixirs cut out were as delicate as silk. My dad's eyes were straightened and he forgot to suck the smoke in his mouth. Xiaowei, when did you learn how to use this knife skills? He couldn't help asking. I don't know how to explain it, so I could only smile and say, I did a dream last night. Although my dad didn't believe it, he didn't ask much, but just let me continue to help. I had flowers blooming in my heart. This jade pendant is indeed not simple. I can't tell that Lin Xiaowei is really going to turn from a wastewood into a big kid. That day, the business of Yuzi was a little better than usual. I cut vegetables and toppings, and my movements became more and more convenient. I even tried to stir-fry a simple vegetable. Although the taste was average, it was at least not burned. My dad looked at my performance and finally smiled on his face, saying, "It seems that you are not completely helpless. You continue to practice and may be really capable of doing something." I clicked my head, thinking about the jade pendant in my heart. What exactly is it? Why did I suddenly become a bit like a chef? And that old man, who is he? These questions are like a group of irritating, slugging in my brain, making me unable to help but want to figure it out. A few days later, I was busy working, when a man in a long black dress suddenly came to the entrance of the alley. He wore an old-fashioned hat, his face was as cold as ice, his eyes swept over his shoulders, and finally fell on me. He left and said in a low voice, "Are you Lin Xiaowei?" I was stunned for a moment and pointed, "Yes, I am." "Who are you?" Instead of answering directly, he took out a business card from his pocket and sent it to me. "My name is Gu Changfeng. I heard that you have been using a little bit of handcraft recently. I want to see if you really have that potential." Ancient style? I seem to have heard of this name somewhere, but I can't remember it for a while. I took the business card and felt a little nervous. This person doesn't seem simple, but what did he ask me for? Is it hard to say that the jade pendant is because of that piece of jade pendant? Boy, don't be stupid. Gu Changfeng said coldly, I don't have time to waste. I'll give you 3 days to prepare a dish so that I can see if you're worth my thoughts. If it doesn't work, don't waste my time. After saying that, he turned around and left me with a confused face. I looked down at the business card in my hand, and my heart was filled with mixed feelings. 3 days to prepare a dish? This pressure is quite large. But I also felt that this might be an opportunity to really change my fate. I clenched my fists tightly, and I made up my mind to myself. No matter who this ancient Longfeng is, no matter what the secret of this jade pendant is, I will seize this opportunity to prove that I am not a waste. That night, when I got home, my brain was covered with the cold face of the old Changfeng and his words. In 3 days, I prepared a dish and it was simple to hear, but for people like me who could stir-fry eggs and fried rice, simple is an impossible task. However, I also know in my heart that this may be an opportunity to turn over, and if it is wrong, there will never be another one. I sat on the bed, took out the mysterious jade pendant from the drawer, and carefully used the dim light to find out. The surface of the jade pendant is still the same, as green as if it can drip out of water, and it dissipates an indescribable fragrance. I closed my eyes and tried to recall the pictures I flashed in my brain that night. The skills of knife skills, heat, and material matching were blurry, but they were indeed as if they were engraved in my memory. I thought to myself, since this jade pendant can make me cut vegetables suddenly, it may also help me make something similar. The next morning, I didn't tell my dad about this, for fear that he would blow me cold water again. I went straight to the market, bought some fresh ingredients, and planned to practice it myself first. The market was filled with people, and the fishy food was shouting and the air was full of fishy smell and earthy smell. I picked a few lively fish, bought some vegetables and ingredients, and my heart thought about what kind of dishes to make such a big shot like the old man like Changfeng. When I returned to the sacred boy, my dad saw me holding a bunch of things and couldn't help asking, "What kind of nerve do you have? Why do you buy such a lot of things? We sacred boys don't have much money to waste." I smiled and found a reason. "Dad, I just want to train my hands to see if I can order new dishes." "Don't worry, it's 10% more. Wouldn't we just be able to do business?" My dad glanced at me half believingly, and said nothing more, just muttered, "Don't hurt the pot again." I ignored him, turned around and dribbled into the small kitchen behind the skull, and started to swell. To be honest, I have no idea. Although the jade pendant gave me some strange knowledge in my brain, when I really started, I was still the one who was busy with my head. On the first day, I tried making a steamed fish, but the heat was not well controlled. The fish meat was steamed like an eraser, and it was no different from chewing a plastic bag. I took a bite by myself and almost spit it out. I thought that if this was given to Gu Changfeng, he would probably throw me out of the alley directly. However, I didn't give up. In the next 2 days, I almost didn't sleep much. I helped me work during the day and hid in the kitchen to practice at night. Although the memories brought by the jade pendant are incomplete, I found that as long as I calm down and hold the jade pendant, I can feel the feeling of some ingredients, such as whether this fish is fresh or not, how should I cut the leaves and how much ingredients should be placed. This feeling is very mysterious and can't be explained clearly, but I followed this and the dishes I made gradually became a bit more impressive. On the third morning, I finally took out a dish that was still worthwhile, a plate of spicy fish slices. The fish slices are as thin as wings. The aroma of chili and pepper is soaked in the nose. It is spicy and fragrant. Although it is not as good as a restaurant, it will at least not make people want to cure them after eating. My dad tried it and his eyes lit up. He couldn't help but say, "Xiaowei, you guys have really grown a little. Although this dish is not perfect, it is much stronger than the black charcoal you made before." After hearing this, I felt a little clear in my heart. That afternoon, the ancient Long Wind really appeared at the entrance of the alley at the beginning. He was still wearing a long black shirt and a special hat, and his face was as cold as if he had owed him millions. He walked to the sir, glanced at me, and his voice was low. "Are you ready?" I ordered the head, put the plate of spicy fish slices out in a solid manner, and placed them on the small table in front of him. "I made this, you can see." Gu Changfeng didn't say anything, picked up the chopsticks and put them in his mouth and chewed them slowly. His expression didn't change much, and it wasn't clear that he was satisfied or dissatisfied. I stood beating like a drum, my palms were covered in sweat. My dad was also sneaking around, holding smoke in his mouth, pretending to be insignificant, but his eyes were full of tightness. After a long time, Gu Changfeng finally put down his chopsticks and looked at me. His temperament was still so cold, the knife skills are still too good, the heat is strong, and the flavor is a bit meaningful, but overall, it is still too rough. At this level, it is not as good as those of the small museums on the street. My heart sank, and I just wanted to explain it, but he raised his hand and slammed me. "However, if you can do this within 3 days, it means you are completely unsuccessful. Starting today, let me learn from me. But let me first, my rules are very serious. If you can't continue, just boil as soon as possible and don't waste my time." I was stunned for a moment, my brain had not reacted a little. Learn with him? That means, he was willing to teach me? Suddenly, an indescribable excitement surged in my heart, and I kept talking. "I'm learning. I can definitely hold on." Gu Changfeng hummed, said nothing more, got up and left, and threw down a sentence. "At 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, I will come to the Lao Weiju in the east of the city to find me. After a minute, I won't come." I watched his back disappear at the entrance of the alley, feeling both excited and nervous. This is a big opportunity. Who is Gu Changfeng? Although I didn't remember it before, I checked it out last night. This guy was once a legendary figure in the chef world. He won numerous awards and said that the dishes he made could make people lose their eyes after eating. But he suddenly retreated a few years ago, and no one knew the reason. If I can learn arts from such a big shot, is my lifestyle really going to reverse? That night, I told my dad about this. After hearing this, he was silent for a while, then patted my shoulder with a little relief in his language. "Xiaowei, this is an opportunity to catch it. Dad has no ability and will not last long. If you can learn something, Dad will be content." I swear in my heart that no matter how hard or tired I will continue to swear. At 4:30 the next morning, I rode my dad's old bicycle to the east of the city with a pair of bear cat eyes on my head. It was quite far away from our old street in the east. It started to rain lightly on the road. My clothes were wet, but my heart seemed to be on fire, and my heart was full of expectations for the future. When I arrived at the Lao Weiju, I realized that this place was not a high-end restaurant at all, but a small yard that was almost collapsed. There was a sign that was about to fall off at the door, and the yard was full of grass, as if no one had taken care of it for many years. I pushed the door open and walked in. It was pitch black inside, and only a faint light came out from the direction of the kitchen. "Come?" Gu Changfeng's voice was sent out from the kitchen, but it was still so cold. I quickly responded to the sound and ran over to see that he was standing in front of an old stove, holding a kitchen knife in his hand, and a pile of ingredients were placed on the chopping board next to him. He saw me coming in and said without raising his head, "Starting today, you will be here at 5 a.m. and until 10 a.m. If you don't know how to learn, don't eat, and if you don't have a good time, don't sleep. Do you understand?" I swallowed and said, "I understand." The days that follow are simply the landlord. I never thought that learning how to be so tired when cooking is. Gu Changfeng's training method is not as good as a normal person. He let me practice from the most basic knife skills. I cut several hundred kilograms of potato shit every day, and my hands were almost cramped until I cut it. He was still sneering, "I can't do this job well, and I still want to be a chef. Go home and sell fried buns." In addition to knife skills, he also taught me how to distinguish the freshness of ingredients, how to master the heat, how to match and adjust the ingredients, and even how to stand and how to hold the knife. Whenever I made a mistake, he would suck my back with a bamboo stick, which made me grin, but he was a little uneasy and said in his mouth, I remember it if it hurts. Don't do it again next time. Although training is hard, I found that I am making progress. The memories brought by the jade pendant seem to be slightly activated by the training of the ancient style. My perception of the ingredients became more and more sensitive. I could even tell that a piece of meat was from a few days ago. When I was cutting vegetables, I could feel the dialogue between the knife and the ingredients. This feeling was wonderful, as if I suddenly started to chant. After about a month, I finally got a few dishes like that. Although Gu Changfeng is still picky in his mouth, he occasionally feels satisfied with his eyes. That night, he didn't cure me for the first time, but gave me a bowl of hot soup and said, "Drink it, it's okay today." I took the soup and took a sip, but I almost lost my eyes. The smell of soup seemed to be directly diamond in my heart, which aroused my memory of eating with my dad when I was a child, and it was extremely warm. I looked at the ancient Changfeng and suddenly felt a sense of gratitude that I couldn't say. Although this old man is poisonous, he really wants to teach me. "Teacher." I tried and called out, and the sound was a little small. He glanced at me and hummed, "Don't call me so hot, I didn't say I'd accept you as an apprentice. You are at this level and you are still far away from the teacher." I snatched my head and didn't say anything, but I secretly swear in my heart that one day, I will let him admit that I am his apprentice. After a long time, I had to fly for another 2 months. My artist suddenly entered and my father couldn't help but say that the dishes I'm cooking now can be compared with the small museums on the street. However, the old man still had that cold face. I was far from being a real chef. At this moment, a big news came from the city. The initial competition of the Top of Taste Buds is about to begin. This is the top-notch competition in the chef industry. Those who can participate are all experts from all walks of life, and the registration qualifications must be selected through level screening. When I heard this news, I felt like I was getting angry. I especially wanted to try it, but I was afraid that I would not be able to do anything and would lose my eyes. That night, I plucked up my courage and mentioned this matter to Gu Changfeng. After hearing this, he was silent for a while, and then said coldly, "Want to participate? Okay, but you have to worry about me first. Tomorrow, I will give you a question. If you can make a dish that pleases me, I will ask you to register. If not, don't mention this." I felt nervous, but I still gritted my teeth and agreed. The next day, he really gave me a question using the simplest ingredients to make a dish that can remind your memory. This topic can be heard simply, but it is actually very hard to be honest. Wake up memory? How great awesome is this to be done? I held the jade pendant, closed my eyes, and tried to recall my deepest memory. The scene of my father working with me when I was a child appeared in my brain, and there was also the way Zhang Xiaomi was always smiling and wiping my sweat. By the way, Zhang Xiaomi. She is my best friend. I haven't seen her for a long time, and I don't know what happened to her broken restaurant. Thinking of this, I suddenly felt a sense of spirit and decided to make a simple home-cooked dish, scrambled eggs with tomatoes. This dish is my favorite food when I was a child. Although it is ordinary, it makes me feel particularly warm every time I eat it. I chose the latest tomatoes and chicken eggs, cut them carefully, grasp every minute of heat, and only put the simplest salt and a little sugar in the mix, striving to restore the taste of that homey. When the dishes were served, Gu Changfeng was still the expressionless look. He chewed it slowly, and his eyes suddenly became a little complicated. After a long time, he put down his chopsticks and said in a low voice, "This dish is quite interesting. Okay, I'll register you, but remember, the taste bud throne is not something to play, so don't give me a silly person if you go." I felt ecstatic in my heart and kept talking, "Teacher, I will definitely not disappoint you." In the next few days, the old general began to give me special training, teach me some advanced skills, and tell me various rules and dilemmas in the competition. Only then did I realize that the taste bud throne is not only about cooking art, but also about mind, strategy, and even the strength behind it. People like Zhao Tianhua have long been targeted by bigwigs, and resources and human resources are not comparable to me. But I'm not afraid. With the guidance of the jade pendant and the ancient style, I felt that I was no longer the little smell of the wasteland. On the first day of the competition, I was wearing a clean chef's uniform and stood in the hall at the competition venue. Looking at the confident players around me, my heart was both tight and excited. Before the competition began, I suddenly saw a familiar figure, Zhao Tianhua. He was still the same tall and arrogant, wearing a custom-made chef's uniform, and there were several assistants next to him. He glanced at me and sneered at the corner of his mouth. "Check, is the wastewood coming? You can't get this place here. Go back early to sell the fried buns." I snatched my teeth and ignored him. I secretly swear in my heart that I must let him shut up in this competition. The whistle of the competition sounded, and I took a deep breath, picked up the kitchen knife, and prepared to welcome this battle belonging to me. The air in the competition was filled with heavy and tight breath, the sound of the knife cutting board, the sound of the fried pork, and the murmurs of the low voices of the choices, mixing together like a battle without nitros. I stood in front of my operating table, my palms were covered in sweat, my eyes were fixed on the pile of fresh ingredients in front of me, and my heart seemed to be filled with a rabbit, pounding. The rules of the first game are very simple. Use designated ingredients to make a dish that can promote the evaluation within 2 hours. The topic I drew was the taste of home and country, which was both an opportunity and a challenge for me. After all, I grew up on the street, and the smell of my homeland was the smoke from the broken trunk. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and the scene of watching the girl with my father when I was a child appeared in my brain, and there was also a scene where Zhang Xiaomei smiled and gave me a bowl of hot soup. Yes, that's the smell. I opened my eyes quietly, picked up the knife, and started processing the ingredients. The jade pendant was hanging on my chest, and a warm feeling blew out of my mind, as if it was a cheer for me. I decided to make a simple dish, using the most delicious potatoes, croquettes and a little pork to make a hot home-cooked soup, and a little secret sauce taught me by my father, so that the warmth of that kind of home can directly enter the evaluation committee's stomach. As time passed, my hands were moving faster and faster. I cut vegetables, soaked soup, and tuned every step, for fear of making a little mistake. Some of the pickers next to them were showing off their fancy knife skills, while others used high-end ingredients to build beautiful plates. I glanced at it and felt a little nervous in my heart, but I quickly told myself, "Lin Xiaowei, you are not fancy, all you have to do is speak with taste." It arrived soon after 2 hours. I brought the soup to the review committee, and my heart was filled with joy. There are 3 members of the evaluation committee, all of whom are big shots in the chef industry. One of them is an acquaintance of Zhao Tianhua, who said that it is the one who has the power behind him. I watched them sip, with no expression on their faces, and I felt even more panicked. After a long time, one of the reviewers finally opened his mouth. "This soup is very pleasant, but there is a warmth in the taste that cannot be described," as if I was back to my childhood all of a sudden. "Lin Xiaowei, right? It's good, it's a bit interesting." When I heard this, the stone in my heart fell to the ground, and the corners of my mouth couldn't help but smile. Although it is not a good score, it is at least closed. I turned my head and looked at Zhao Tianhua. He had already handed in the food. The reviewers couldn't praise his works and said perfect and flawless and genius work, which made my teeth sore. He noticed my gaze and raised his eyebrows at me, his eyes full of tilts. I gritted my teeth and thought to myself, "Laugh, one day I will make you unable to laugh." The first game results came out soon, and I reluctantly stepped into the next round. Zhao Tianhua was of course the first place to be unthinkable. After the competition, I dragged my tired body back to Lao Weiju and told Gu Changfeng the results. After hearing this, his face was still so cold, and he hummed, "What's so proud of after passing the first game? The competition in the future is the real sword and gun. You are so good at this level that you can't even have tooth-plugging teeth." I squeezed my head and knew that this was a way of stimulation, but a desire to fight was still ignited in my heart. In the next few rounds of competitions, I was like a slogan. I practiced crazy every day with the old style, and when I got home at night, I thought about the new dishes myself. The memory of the jade pendant becomes clearer and clearer. Sometimes I can even feel the emotion of the ingredients and know how to match them to exude the greatest taste. Slowly, my confidence also rose a little. Turning around, the competition entered a half decision. The theme of this time was emotional community, requiring the selector to use a menu to awaken the emotional memory of the review committee. This is a big challenge for me, but it is also in the middle. I decided to make a dish of sweet and sour pork ribs that Xiaomi loves the most. The sweet and sour taste hides my gratitude to her, and the hard days she has survived with me in those years. I remember she said that the dish tasted like a smile, so sweet that it made people feel warm. On the day of the competition, I processed every piece of ribs with all my heart. The sauce was thick and transparent, and the sweet and sour ratio was just right. When I was served on the table, I looked at the expressions of the reviewers, and my hands were shaking with tightness. As a result, after one of the reviewers finished eating, his eyes were a little red, and he said with a choking voice, "This taste reminds me of the dish my mother has made. I haven't eaten it for many years. Lin Xiaowei, you have the heart to do this dish." At that moment, I almost jumped up. After the semifinals, I actually entered the top 5. Although I can't compare to Zhao Tianhua, this is a result that I have never dared to imagine. After the competition, I ran to Zhang Xiaomi's small restaurant and told her about this. After she finished listening, she was flashing in her eyes and patted my shoulder with a smile. "Xiaowei, you can do it. I have said a long time ago that you are either wastewood, you are just uncarved jade, and now it is finally shining." I looked at her smiling face. My heart was so warm that I was still stubborn. "Come on, don't tell me, I'm still far away. When I win the championship, I'll come here to get you here." She curled her lips and said with a smile, "Okay, I'll wait for your champion chef to make me a big meal." After half of the game, the days of the game are getting closer and closer, and the training of my old elder brother has become more and more serious. He began to teach me some lost ancient cooking techniques, saying that these were his ultimate tricks in the kitchen that year, which could make the taste of a dish soaring. However, he also warned me that the game was not just a competition, but the efforts behind Zhao Tianhua would try his best to get me done, and might even move my hands in the game, so that I must be careful. I clicked the head, but I didn't have much fear in my heart. Over the past few days, I am no longer the one that can't even handle the turf. No matter what troubles there are, I will pass. The night before the finals, I sat alone in the yard of Lao Weiju, holding a jade pendant, and suddenly a bunch of strange pictures flashed through my brain. An old man wearing ancient clothes was busy in the kitchen, and everyone next to me called him keep. The dishes made can make people kneel down and worship after eating. The pictures became clearer and clearer, and I could even feel his mood at that time, and he was also engaging in cooking. When I came back to my senses, the jade pendant in my hand was burned like a piece of charcoal. I was shocked. I wonder what is the relationship between this jade pendant and that cheerful temple. Is it difficult to say that the ancient chief's retreatment also has something to do with this? I didn't have time to think too much, and the next day was the finalization, and I had to do my best. The competition venue is located in the largest food venue in the center of the city. It is surrounded by a crowd of people, and the atmosphere is so hot that it seems to be blown up. The theme of the game is Christmas, requiring the player to use a dish to describe his story, while showing a chef's art that is beyond ordinary people. Looking at the ingredients on the operating table, I had an idea in my mind. I wanted to make a dish that combines street smoke and ancient techniques, and integrates my gratitude to my dad and Zhang Xiaomi. After the competition began, my whole body seemed to have entered another world. The knife in my hand was as fast as flying, and the flames in the pot were jumping, as if playing a song with me. The memory of the jade pendant and the teaching of the ancient style intertwined in my brain. I could even feel the spirit of every piece of food and know how they should be presented. What I made was a dish of beef noodle, which was slowly boiled for 6 hours. It was soft and tasty. The noodles were hand-pulled with ancient methods and were very chewy. A secret spice from the jade pendant memory was added to the soup base, and the taste was so scattered that it could make people suck. When I was placing the plate, I specially used an old pottery bowl, like the one on our house, representing the roots I walked from the street. There was a big handwriting on the side of Zhao Tianhua. He made a molecular dish, and the dishes looked like art products. The review committees dripped one by one, and the audience was shocked. I felt a little nervous, but I still calmed down and brought my own dishes. The review committee sniffed, first silent, then a surprised expression. One of the reviewers even stood up, and the sound was a bit slight. "How is this smell possible? This is the taste of the Tianxiang fan that has been lost for 100 years. Lin Xiaowei, how did you do it?" I was stunned for a moment, thinking that this should be something in the jade pendant memory, but I couldn't explain it, so I could only smile and say, "It's done according to the feeling in my heart. Maybe I'm lucky." The reviewers looked at each other, their eyes full of incredible. Finally, the result came out, and my score was ranked first with Zhao Tianhua. The scene is full of silence. After all, I am a street boy who is not famous for his inheritance. It is simply a miracle to be able to tie the genius like Zhao Tianhua. Zhao Tianhua's face was blue and his eyes were full of anger, but he still looked firm and walked over to shake hands with me, saying coldly, "Lin Xiaowei, don't be proud, the real competition is not over yet." I ignored his pics, and I knew in my heart that what he said was right. Because according to the rules, if there is one, you have to add one game and decide the championship at the scene. I looked at the review seat, took a deep breath, and thought to myself, come on, no matter how difficult it is, I will not retreat. The rules of the competition are simpler and cooler. 2 people make a dish at the same time, and the theme is extremely limited flavor. Who can push the taste to the extreme? Who is the champion? The time is only 1 hour, and the ingredients are selected at will. My brain was flying quickly and decided to use the simplest chicken eggs to make a very cool egg dish. The memory of the jade pendant told me that chicken eggs seem ordinary, but as long as the heat and flavor are in place, they can become delicious in the human room. I chose the tenderest chicken eggs, steamed in ancient ways, and paired them with a little secret sauce and a few drops of sesame oil, striving to make every bite as smooth as a silkworm, and the taste is so scattered that people can't forget. Zhao Tianhua chose high-quality ingredients and made a seafood plaque, which was so dazzling that it was dazzling. After the competition, the review committee first gave his dishes and ordered, "The technology is indescribable and the taste is extremely good. Zhao Tianhua deserves to be a genius." My heart sank, feeling that I might not have lost it. But after they finished my egg cooking, their expressions suddenly changed. A judge even closed his eyes and murmured, "How can this egg be able to do this? It's so simple and complex, and every bite is challenging the limits of the taste buds. Lin Xiaowei, your dish is a legend." Finally, the review committee unanimously decided that the champion was Lin Xiaowei. There was a thunderous sound on the scene. I stood on the stage, holding the prize cup in my hand. My brain was blank. From street waste to taste buds champion, it is like dreaming. I turned to look at the audience. My dad and Zhang Xiaomi were both there. My dad's eyes were red, and Zhang Xiaomi smiled and shook her hand at me. My heart felt sad and I almost lost my eyes. After the competition, Gu Changfeng found me and couldn't smile on his face. "Boy, I'm having a good time. It seems that I haven't taught you in vain." I looked at him and suddenly plucked up the courage to ask, "Teacher, have you known about the jade pendant for a long time? And what does your retreat have to do with it?" He was silent for a while, with a cumbersome look in his eyes, and then he said in a low voice, "Some things are not the time to tell you now. You just need to remember that winning the championship is not the end, but a new beginning. The chef's road is longer than you think." I clicked the head, and although I still had doubts in my heart, I also knew that he would not say much. After the competition, my life changed suddenly. My father's business was booming. Zhang Xiaomi's small restaurant began to be renovated because of my fame, and I was challenged by several top-level restaurants. However, I was not in a hurry to decide the future because I knew that no matter how far I went, the smoke from the old street would always be the deepest smell in my heart. That night, I stood alone at the entrance of the old street and alley, looking at the stars in the sky, holding the jade pendant in my hand, and a new ambition ignited in my heart. The champion is just the beginning. Next, I will use my own cuisine to change the fate of more people so that everyone who has eaten my food can feel the warmth and hope.